Continue our jury, Bob Greenwood.
Yay!
Thank you. Welcome. I'll start by telling you how wonderful an experience it's been to be the jury president this year, specifically, because I think that 2010 is a pivotal year for our industry based on just a couple of factors. The fact that there's been constant change in technology coupled with a global economic downturn, combined with the fact that clients are changing dramatically because they have to, and that the consumer has changed in every way possible, and they're much different than they used to be because they have access to all the screens and platforms and new social media, etc. And I think that that's changed our industry, the impact of which has been more this year than perhaps any year in the past. So it's a real honor and a pleasure to have been part of the titanium and integrated jury this year particularly. We've had great discussions and debate and dialogue which has gone on. I think we came to a decision in a similar way that other juries have in past years, similar number of awards and a similar number of titanium and Grand Prix for integrated. But I think that the work is very different, as I mentioned, impacted by the things I said earlier. I think that always in this category, I think the main thing that people are looking for in titanium particularly are ideas that are moving the industry forward. That's been a constant expression of titanium, starting with Dan Wyden, who originated the idea around the award that was given to the films that were made for what's the car company? BMW. It seems like ages ago, and they really changed the business and moved it forward. So we've always been looking for ideas like that are inspirational. Also, the big thing that I think we're all fighting is commoditization. It could be the brands, it could be the agencies, it could be the media, etc. And I think I've seen a lot of innovation that's been the antidote for commoditization. There is a trend also in terms of media that is owned rather than bought and earned, where it can spread virally in other ways. So, a lot of the entries had in it the comment that there was no media dollars spent. Now, there may have been some, but perhaps less than in other years. And then we saw a real interesting phenomenon with the new platforms that have been around, whether it's Twitter or Facebook. It seemed like everybody was integrated into those social networks, as well as the new one, which is Foursquare. And I think that we were largely in agreement, particularly when it came to the votes for the Grand Prix. I believe that all of them were unanimous. So we had a lot of discussion, back and forth, etc. But at the end of the day, it was that everybody was pretty much in agreement with the choices. And I think we found the best work that's out there in the top categories of titanium and integrated this year. And I think that was our charge, because each year things change. And then I also think that it was important that we looked at integrated not as, sometimes they call it matched luggage, where you come up with an idea and then it is disseminated to many channels with checkboxes. Did we hit this channel? Did we hit that channel? We didn't look at that at all. I think we were just looking for ideas that traveled across a couple of very good channels really well, and that when it was integrated, it had to be excellent in each channel in which it's important for the message or the idea. With that, I thought I would start off by showing you the first winner in Grand Prix, and then we could have a discussion around that with my illustrious judging panel. And so if we could run 12 for us. It's not easy to say.
Best Buy has always been the undisputed tech expert, but their key asset, the knowledge of the Blue Shirts and Geek Squad agents, was confined to their stores. So Best Buy decided to launch a tool that could extend the knowledge of their geeks and Blue Shirts beyond their walls and out into the digital space. Meet the 12th Force, a modern, digitized volunteer army of Best Buy employees available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on Twitter. Since the launch, 12th Force has answered thousands and thousands of tweets, landed Best Buy in the top 25 social brands of 2009, and helped drive overall customer complaints down by nearly 20% in the first year alone. But most importantly, 12th Force paved the way for a whole new approach to customer service. Thanks for watching.
So I'll just start with a quick comment, and then I'll turn it over to our judges. Anybody that wants to comment, please raise your hand. I think that one of the new areas for the industry is really retail. And also, how do you make sales associates smarter when in fact it's very difficult to keep up with a category like electronics. And most of the big box stores are commoditized, and many of them are not interested. People are going to move in this direction. I think you'll see that in 2 years, perhaps, they all will have capabilities like that. Ray's agency, AK2A, and mine, RGA, we both work on Target and Walmart, as an example, and they're definitely going to be moving in this area. But what makes it so important is that Crispin and Porter, together with the client, actually did it ahead of other people and did it really well, and it's making a difference to their business, both online and across all the various channels, and then offline in the physical space. So I think that that's really a very big idea that would change business, and again, move the industry forward with how we tie into physical space, retail, channels, associates, and service. So with that, I'll turn it over to anybody from the panel that wants to make a comment here, please. Ray?
So I've been a big fan of this piece of work since the day it came out. And a couple of things that I say about this piece is that in the last few years, the notion of user-generated content has been around. And a lot of clients and a lot of brands and a lot of agencies have been trying to crack that user-generated content algorithm. But it's quite a bit of echo. What's slightly different about this is that it's employee-generated content. So it's giving the power back to the company and, more importantly, to thousands and thousands of employees that Best Buy has, and creating content around a question, around a task, what have you, and creating that relationship with consumers. So that's one thing. The other thing that I'd add to that is one of the things that we talk about, and I think about a lot when we do our work, is that the work should be useful, usable, and delightful. And to me, this piece hit all of those 3 points, and especially the last point, delight. I think that this piece put delight back into customer service customer service, as we all know, a lot of times you have to call a phone number and you get put on hold for a long time. Whereas this one, it made that experience useful, usable, and delightful.
David.
I think one of the things that struck me was that one of the biggest issues we have with technology today is that many companies and clients are looking just to tick boxes. So it's, you've got to make me one of those, give me one of those, make me a viral, as if, we're Harry Potter and sort of can make a viral, or make me a Facebook application, or do something on Twitter. And people kind of check the boxes, and it becomes match luggage, or it becomes upload this picture, or do something along those lines, but not core to the business. And I think what struck us all was just how core to the business proposition of Best Buy this was. So it was taking the technology and making it core to their service proposition. And I think when you think about that, that is totally inspirational for everyone. And to do it in such a way that it's totally seamless was really brilliant.
Anybody else want to make a comment?
I will.
Go ahead.
So a lot of times when you're looking at these things, you're struck by the simplicity of ideas. And just to build on what Bob and Ray and David are saying, and I think one of the things that struck us all is that it's really understanding Twitter and understanding that as consumers, we're no longer driving to the store and willing to sort through that experience, but we want the immediacy of finding out information on the internet, and Twitter is even more immediate than that. And so I think understanding and matching the basic core functionality of Twitter in a way that was really organic and authentic, it seems like a simple idea when we look at it, and that's what struck us as the brilliance of it.
I think that the one other comment that I would make is that, once again, getting the sales associates to be smarter about a product that's very complicated and constantly changing, and where they may be paid okay, but they're not paid a ton of money, and they have to stay on top of what's happening, which they can do through their internal mechanisms, but they also would like to talk to people that are right at the point of sale, either online or in store, and give them intelligent information. I think that's a big idea. I don't think that Rob will necessarily want to comment because he's from the agency that won, Crispin Porter, and he's a top creative person there with Andrew Keller. But Rob, if you want to say anything, you can.
In general, what we try to do is add value to our clients, and it's great that something like this, which was never really meant to win an award, is winning an award. So we appreciate it. So I thank the panel for recognizing.
Great. He's man of few words and great deeds. Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
What's here?
Thanks. If I may just add to what Rob said, if something was not meant to win an award and is picked up, that sums it up, I think, because what you see in the shows these days are people just wanting to win awards. And actually, this is a byproduct. The winning awards is actually a byproduct of it. And I think that's brilliant. And as Bob said, it was a unanimous decision that my distinguished panel of judges came to, because it just cut through, and it's very clever, and it's about customer service in the end, in this retail store.
If I may add one more thing. When we were discussing about this work, one of the key phrases that we were thinking about, and I was certainly thinking about, was game-changing. Is there a piece of work that is game-changing? And what was interesting was that the phrase that came up was that about this piece was that it's a business-changing idea. So not only is it game-changing, but also it changes the business of the client.
Any questions from the press about anything regarding this award? And then it would be good probably to keep it to this award for the moment, and then we could go on and cover the others. Yes.
Sorry.
The woman in
Hi. Well, I have a question about the thing itself, Rob. I mean, how do the 12 forces speak in so few characters to give an answer, or is that not part of it? Do they answer in other ways?
Well, I mean, I think, most questions are fairly basic, but, there's multiple ways to do it. You can do multiple tweets. But in general, it hasn't really been an issue. I think people aren't really asking so complicated questions that you're needing a manual to answer it. But it seems to be working in that sense.
I wanted to ask Rob, how did the ID came to you or to the agency while working with the client? I mean, did they ask for business-changing ID, or I mean, what was in the beginning? What did the client ask?
They didn't really generally ask for it, but I think customer service has long been the most negative part of any kind of retail experience. So generally we go to places that seem not necessarily easy to fix, but easy to recognize that you need to solve this problem. And it's amazing that customer service hasn't been somewhat reinvented. I think it's just a very simple idea that they had to embrace. And it is, I don't want to say geeks, but their service people are called Geek Squad. So it seems using technology to answer problems seem to really fit with the brand. So, I remember seeing it on a piece of paper in a little paragraph, and said we just need a good name for this thing because it's a really smart and simple idea. They fully embraced it. I mean, I will give Best Buy most of the credit because someone has to recognize a good idea and then put the resources and people behind it.
Good question.
Can we just watch
Yes.
again? Can
Sure.
we just watch it again, if that's okay?
Should we run the Best Buy entry once more?
Best Buy has always been the undisputed tech expert, but their key asset, the knowledge of the Blue Shirts and Geek Squad agents, was confined to their stores. So Best Buy decided to launch a tool that could extend the knowledge of their geeks and Blue Shirts beyond their walls and out into the digital space. Meet the 12 Force, a modern, digitized volunteer army of Best Buy employees available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on Twitter. Since the launch, 12 Force has answered thousands and thousands of tweets, landed Best Buy in the top 25 social brands of 2009, and helped drive overall customer complaints down by nearly 20% in the first year alone. But most importantly, 12 Force paved the way for a whole new approach to customer service. Thanks for watching.
Any additional questions?
How did you come up with the name?
Many tries. It was very difficult to say at first when you see it and keep saying it. So we went around, many rounds of names, and then this one kept coming back, and it seems to work.
Okay, I do want to mention just one thing because I won't be mentioning it tonight because I'm going to be very brief since there's been additional things added to the night tonight, which would be craft, which John Kamen's leading, and then we'll make an award also, which we won't announce here, a Grand Prix for good, and that's where we take all the golds from all the categories that have won and look at them to create one Grand Prix for good. The other thing that I'll mention, because again I won't mention it from the stage, is Bob Scarpelli and how I wound up as president this year. Dan was thinking of me for presidency down the road, but Bob was originally given that task, and he got ill with a staph infection. And I just want to, it was a very scary and difficult time he had in the intensive ward of the hospital. He's the Chief Creative Officer globally of DDB and a friend, and he's doing well, and he's recovering. So I just wanted to mention that for anybody who wants an update on Bob's condition. Secondly, we'll go to Livestrong, and I'll mention that once again, we're looking for, in this particular case, the Grand Prix for integration. And integration is, there are so many screens today, whether it's the laptop, desktop, television, mobile phone, big events, in-store displays, etc. And there's many platforms that people can do things that are innovative with these platforms today. In addition to outbound, there's all the inbound on-demand channels. So Livestrong has been around for a while, and I think people are very familiar with it. But it really is the agency, Wyden and Kennedy, that has created a foundation along with Lance Armstrong and tied very specifically to the Nike brand that they've been working on for quite a long time. Now, somebody may have preceded them in the colored bands, but the ones that made a scenario where everybody wanted to have a yellow band was Livestrong. In addition, Lance Armstrong is an amazing story in himself of how he overcame so many obstacles and had sort of gone recently out of the mainstream because he was no longer racing after having won more awards than anyone else in the bicycle races that are most important that happen in France. So he came back recently. And what's so amazing to me, and it's not a sport that I'm expert at following, but that he made it to the podium at his age, which is third place, in such an important global event that is so incredibly difficult to get anywhere in terms of placing. It's just amazing on its own. And what we saw is we saw brilliant work in every aspect of the campaign. So if you looked at print, or you looked at broadband, or you looked at a channel like an event, and specifically Chalkbot has been something that you'll see again and again for Wyden and for Nike and for Livestrong as being about true innovation in numerous channels itself. And when you look at the way in which, when we show you the video, that Lance Armstrong and Nike brand and the Livestrong Foundation took it even further. We thought it was an amazing integrated campaign as well as platform, etc. So it became the execution being flawless in every way, shape, and form that we unanimously, again, voted for the Livestrong Foundation. And I think it's probably best by just showing you the video. If we could run the video, please.
As some of you may or may not know, I've decided to race my bicycle again. This must be a global health priority.
So as you see, the riders are going all over the yellow chalkpot there, let me remind you, while the Nike chalkpot follows the road to the Tour de France, you can follow the Nike chalkpot at home on Twitter or at yourYellow.com.
So rather than asking if some of our panelists would like to make a comment, I'd like to ask Jen if he would, because he has to say something. And he
No word. Well, I would just like to say that this is a really big idea, and multiple big ideas in there. But I have to correct Bob on one thing. The Belgian Eddie makes is the best ever. With all due respect to Lance Armstrong.
And Fabio, where are you?
Fabio's here.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you are. Please say something so we can introduce you to the audience.
What I think about both Grand Prix is that it drives me back to some romantic place in this industry, where we, as communication agencies and people, we could really change the business of our clients. So the first one, for Best Buy, that I didn't mention before, but anyway, it's something that makes me feel like we put the agency again together after so many levels that they created in the companies, with marketing and research and blah, blah, blah. So it put it again with the CEO of the company, because it's a decision that, changes everything in the business. And when I look at this Nike stuff, I feel like it's funny because it's kind of joking with words, but it's the truth. I feel like when you say believe, it looks like the client really believes, because they have to support it with so many investment and so many people to make it happen. It's really innovative and really that changes everything, and I think it's the target for this building.
And let me introduce Nick. You could say a couple words on
just on the Livestrong and the chalkboard in particular. I think the thing that blew me away about that particular piece was the way that it connected real emotion through technology, and used stuff that was, all the breakthrough technology that we're all struggling to, work how to use. And I think there's lots of people using it in very impressive technical ways. But connecting it through this Livestrong thing, where you guys all know that little short robot, but to be able to take messages from people all around the world and print them, on the road in real time, and have that sort of broadcast to the world so people could see it. I felt it was a beautiful sort of union of technology, and the thing that I think is the most important in our industry is getting emotional connection with consumers. So I thought it was brilliant.
I think that the real big idea is that they kept this campaign fresh. That Lance Armstrong, and his decision to come back was not just to come back. I think if he didn't, the foundation would be greatly hurt, in our opinion. And so he had to make that decision, because his brand, Lance Armstrong Foundation, would have started to dissipate. And I think that he, for whatever reason, made that decision and tried to bring the strength back and the courage and the inspiration and made it all fresh again, which is a somewhat impossible task, and to actually get on the podium again in such an important race. Does anybody else have some comment that they'd like to make here on the panel?
Well, I think that what Bob was just talking about, that was, when you look at this, say, what are the integrated pieces? I mean, the first thing was his decision to come back. That is, we have to look at that. It is part of the advertising. So, yeah, there's radio, where's the print? That's where I think integration is going. It's not just I can do a TV spot about it. Him coming back, that was a calculated move to start this campaign. So to me, that's the most important part. I think the chalkboard is an incredible tool, but the decision to come back in the first place as a marketing idea is brilliant. He even said, that I may not win, but cancer will win. So I think that's pretty much sums up the whole idea of why he did it and the whole idea for the campaign.
Okay, Kai, would you like to say something?
Well, I think you said a lot.
Therefore,
I'll add to this. This is such a global health priority. I think that it's a huge idea, and our job as marketeers is really to invent and innovate. And I think that these two ideas, we feel that we are helping to innovate what we're doing, and it's the chalkboard is massive. Not just for this idea, but going forward into other platforms, other spaces, because you can actually use that in itself to bring awareness to a lot of other issues today. And we are faced with many issues globally, and we feel that the platform is massive. This is just the start. I think that's the exciting bit.
Okay, we'll open it up to the two questions.
Hi, Bob. Just Barbara Lippert from that.
Hi, Barbara.
It's a wonderful campaign, but my question is, with the other award for good, wasn't this considered in that category, a charitable category that's not eligible for a Grand Prix? Only a gold?
Yeah, well, for that one, I'll turn it over to Terry, but I also can answer if you prefer, whichever one you think is better.
You start if I need to.
Because I may be wrong about the answer. The reason that it's not in the Grand Prix for Good is because it's a foundation that's sponsored by and paid for by Nike, and it has its commercial attribution to the brand in a way that is not non-for-profit specifically. So, we see it as something that also Nike has created as a way to further their brand. They do connect with a lot of other organizations, like let's say World Wildlife Fund, but in this particular case, it's not exactly the same as a non-for-profit category. If that makes sense. Other questions? Yeah.
Lara Sinclair from the Australian. Just a sort of a thing about the list. It says going down this, it says Titanium Grand Prix, Integrated Grand Prix, Gold Line, and then Titanium Line. What is that a new colour of line? Titanium line?
I think I can answer that. No, I don't think so. I think there is, in each case, there's titanium, and then there's a titanium Grand Prix. Then there's integrated, and integrated comes in the various colors of bronze, silver, gold, and then there's a Grand Prix. And then there's one Grand Prix for good. Any questions on this one?
You could run the show.
This is my fourth time at either judging or being the president once before presiding.
Hi. I'm just wondering about the other titanium winner, the Facebook showroom. That too hinged around recognizing a very simple truth about a new technology. Can you just talk a little bit about what you guys thought about that?
I'm going to turn it over to our panel, but I think that with IKEA and the Facebook application that they made with one of the top people at IKEA's Facebook page itself, displaying a catalog of, and then a competition and promotion connected to it. We again think that as Mark Zuckerberg got awarded the Media Person of the Year, that Facebook is something extraordinarily big, but it has to also get tied into advertising if it's going to be successful in a revenue model. And this does it the best of anything that we've seen. So it created a lot of people vying for being there first so that they could win a prize in a way that was just beautifully executed, and it's also showing the way forward for where commerce and advertising, marketing, and design all tie in with an application as big as Facebook. But I could turn it over to David.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that turned us on about the idea, and if you listen to their submission again, it uses Facebook functionality. So it wasn't like they said, okay, we're going to use, again, ticking the box, how do we use Facebook? Let's create an app, and then the app takes you someplace where we do something else. They used Facebook itself. And we thought that that was just so fresh. They looked at the medium, they tried to understand how it worked, and they used it as it is, and it was hugely successful. And so that was just such a lesson. Again, as Susan said before, the simplicity of it was really what drove its success, and the ability just to be there and make something happen just seemed to be, again, something that next year we're going to have people trying to do. So again, much like Mike 12 Force was one of those ideas we think it's a business changer, or something that people are going to look at and you're going to see a lot more of.
And just to build on that for a second, another thing that's brilliant about it is that people today look to these social networks, even more than microsites, to tell them about products and services and even shop or what they should be shopping for. So I think it's brilliant that IKEA essentially went where their consumers were and saying, we're going to meet you rather than have you come to us. We're going to meet you where you already are. And again, just to echo what David is saying, it's like that's the beauty of it. And they're seeing changes in consumer behavior and a great application in how it really works, and they're marrying those things and really transforming the business for their client.
Yeah.
I have a question about we see all those ideas changing the business of the clients. I was yesterday at a seminar with Jim Steng, and he proposed to create a new award. I wanted to ask if you think it is necessary. He proposed to create a Noble Award, and I quote him, "To celebrate work that has a deep impact on the consumers, the company, and the society." Is this a trend? Do you think it will the need for a new kind of award in that direction?
I'd first like to turn it to Terry to see what he's thinking about that.
Well, I'm not going to make any decisions this morning about a new award, but we will do with that what we do with everything else. We'll look at it, study it, and decide later in the year. But there's a whole lot of suggestions about new awards this year. It's called the blurring of the lines and sort of.
But I want to ask Bob if, with all the work he's seeing, if you think it's a good thing to have such a new award.
I don't know that I could comment on a noble category, because I think although we have a lot of royalty here, I think that the name is a little bit pretentious perhaps, and I think that the one that we're really excited about, which you'll see tonight, is the idea of a Grand Prix for Good. And I think the two recent categories that are very important to recognize, one is design, and I believe that that's a critical new addition which was added a couple years ago. and the panel, the jury, the awards that they chose, the night that they presented, I believe that that's a very big part of our business going forward because it's looking at branding and design has always been about making more complicated things understandable, and in today's day and age, that's really critical. In addition to building brands, not the way they used to be built, but bringing in all the various channels and screens and platforms, as we discussed today, is really very different, and I think that that's a great award as well. And the one that you'll see tonight, which I'm quite passionate about as well, is they've introduced something that we're very familiar with in the United States based on the AICP and their MoMA awards that are about craft. And when the awards are really about cinematography or editing, directing, etc., those awards go directly into the permanent exhibit of the Museum of Modern Art. And it's about time that Cannes has recognized the craft of the work that we're doing, and we all believe that those are going to be an excellent new addition. So Terry and Phil and the others at Cannes have been really adding great new ideas to Cannes and making it better all the time, I think, from all of our points of view.
I have a comment about it, and it's based off your question, and it's less about the awards, but what you're asking and the notion of having to do good and affect society in a way. It's happening. Brands have to do it. The issue with the internet and all these social media is like brands have to have a conversation with consumers now. You can't avoid it. So the transparency is getting more and more, and a lot of these major corporations are being very transparent about their practices, what they do. So the brands that don't embrace that and start figuring out how do I have that great conversation are going to be left behind. So I don't just think it needs an award. I think it's good to recognize that you will be seen as a dinosaur if you're not figuring out ways to better yourself.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yes.
We'll get rid of
the same. Okay. Javier from marketingdirector.com in Spain. When we see the list, the most companies are United States companies, and this is titanium integrated. This is the most important prices. When we see the jury, it's the same. A lot of United States, a lot of Australians. So Europeans, I think, very less. Not only a Belgium guy, and here the same. Only Sweden, United Kingdom. So. And this is the most important prize of this festival. So what are we doing bad or wrong in Europe that we are not presented in jury, not presented with campaigns? What do you think is happening with us in Europe or ASEAN people also? Because ASEAN is also not represented.
I think obviously that's a very sensitive question. We are missing the juror, I think. Mark, is he here yet? No. So I do want to say in terms of Mark Waits and his place in the industry and Mother, which is his agency that he co-founded, and his voice on the jury. We don't know what happened to him. I think he's getting ready for the UK game today. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I do think that one thing that is very obvious is the way the world is coming together, which we do see with the Soccer World Cup that's going on now. I do think that both Phil and I tried hard to keep the jury from leaving at times, but we were completely unsuccessful. And I think that that there isn't any prejudice. I think what we're seeing is great work coming from everywhere, and sometimes the U.S. may have a presence. I didn't see much of a U.S. presence, particularly in cyber, as an example, and maybe in other areas like print and design, etc. I don't think that the juries really care where the entries come from, and they change around from year to year. This type of titanium and integrated award is so hard to put together for agencies and clients, and there may in fact be clients that are global that happen to come out of the U.S. I'm not sure if that has something to do with it. They're maybe investing in a little bit earlier. But when we see a trend like that, we see it move to all the other countries pretty quickly. And I think next year and the year after, we'll see a real shift in the winners. And we'd love to see that. We were very conscious of where the awards were originating from, and we were very blind to that in our decision making.
Bob, can I add something?
Yeah.
I think also that almost every one of us, maybe all of us, represent global clients, global agencies. We have global partners. We have global experiences. I don't think any of us considers ourselves linked to any one geography or region. And I really do believe that. And I can tell you that there was not 5 seconds, not 3 seconds worth of discussion or even thought on anybody's part about where any work came from or what region it might have represented or what network. I think everything, and I would bet you that if we were all from Asia, which you didn't mention, or Latam, which you didn't mention, that most of this work would have been on this, if not all of it, would have been on the same list, because I think we just looked for absolutely the best ideas and the stuff that would inspire everybody. And hopefully that's what happens tonight as well.
Plus, I think the percentage of entries from the USA is very high compared to other countries. So it's just a numbers thing also.
That means that Europe is doing it wrong, not so good, no? Because we have not enough good entries.
I think if you look at the past years, it's growing. How many other countries are doing amazing work? I mean, these entries as winners are mind-boggling how good they are. So it's just, I think it's getting better.
And in direct, there's only one silver from America. Everything else was Europe.
Yeah. Print was
so they
zero.
don't know. Americans don't know where to enter, or Europeans don't know.
Barbara knows.
The Nigerian list is pretty much swept by U.S. entries. So that's 6 out of 9 jurors out of the U.S.
Well, I'll say something about that. I'm not American. I'm from Japan, and I spent my teenage years in Europe. I just happen to live and work in the States right now. So not that everybody has the same kind of experience in terms of where we live, but I think we're all global, and I'm pretty confident that we have a pretty neutral and global view about the work. And as David was saying, this is about recognizing the best ideas out there. And if there's one person who might be biased or unbiased towards one country, I'll speak up because I'm not American.
May I add something?
I thought you were from New Jersey. What the hell?
That's Bob Riley right there.
Not from New Jersey.
I got it right.
I think also the ideas these days, you have to understand that they transcend any language or country barriers. So, it's just not specifically English-speaking countries.
Yeah, I think Belgium is about the smallest country in the world, and it won titanium 2 years ago. So it's all about ideas. It's not geographic.
And I think also from my point of view in our agency, what we're seeing with Crispin and Porter and AKQA and Wonderman and Ogilvy and all the agencies that are participating on the jury, they really are thinking global and often opening offices everywhere because our clients are global, or at least they're international. So we can't think, any of us in the United States, that come from there, and Kai is running one of the biggest networks and is from Singapore. Right, Kai?
Yes, I'm based in New York, but I look after Ogilvy worldwide. And we have 495 offices around the world. And it's only right that I base myself in New York because the global brands again.
Sorry. Yes.
Lena Castellón, main mensagem in Brazil. Since we are talking about people and work outside US, I would like you, Greenberg, to comment about the Peace Hour, the campaign from Brazil.
We all did.
Well, I think that we as a jury now know it's okay to pee in a shower, and we're actually doing that ourselves at the Carlton. So, I mean, it just seems like an oxymoron, but we never knew that it was okay to do that. And so, you know,
Thank you, Brazil.
an entry that is about saving water and hopefully helping with carbon footprints and also perhaps yellow footprints. We really discussed it, and we think that it's a very big idea, and that the way it was executed again was brilliant, and that I think that so many people don't know that that's okay to do male, female, anywhere, anytime, and now that it's acceptable practice, this campaign has actually changed the perception of what people can find acceptable. And they even say it's good for hygiene. So I'll turn it over to some of the other
So one of the great things when you think about campaigns that are trying to encourage you to do something positive is usually they're telling you what not to do. And in this case, they're taking something and telling you to do something. And it was, again, a simple idea, easily communicated, but brilliantly communicated, and in all channels, and also the design and the fun that they had with it. Really, I mean, the idea obviously spread, and the reach of the campaign and the impact of the campaign was significant. So it was fun, it was beautifully designed, and it was very positive.
Other questions? Yes?
Hi. Said we have a new practice to do in shower now, but maybe this is a question to ask you to sum up the whole festival. But what is a mission statement for advertising and communication like for the industry to further move forward into the future?
I think that that's a very big question, of course, and we can have the other panelists comment on that. But I think that, as I mentioned, you have the situation where technology has impacted all the businesses that are important to advertising and marketing. For instance, the first one to really be dramatically impacted was music. And then you have other situations like the media, newspapers, magazines, radio, outdoor. All the outbound parts of our business have been greatly impacted by technology, the impact of technology. Then we have a situation where the consumer has changed so dramatically that we have problems with just the concept of interruption. And we're thinking more about ideas that are, as mentioned earlier, that meet the consumer where they're at and when they're making choices. I don't think anything's changed over the years in terms of the importance of selling, persuasion, building brands. That all remains the same. But then we have situations where client organizations are not structured the right way, and for this amount of change that's happening. And then we have agencies themselves that are rethinking. We had discussions about that at the jury, rethinking how they can re-architect what they're doing in order to make it current for all the things that have been impacting advertising now on a global basis. And then, as I mentioned, rethinking how you would be appropriate to various countries and also local. So, they have a term which we all don't like very much, but global and local is a real big challenge today. And then there's just the fact that in many ways the advertising business will not escape the problems that are happening with, for instance, the music business. or the media business, or the entertainment business, or the car business. And we've seen all of these industries be impacted by exactly the same thing. And so we're in a very important period of reinvention. And we did see that with the entries. We did see that with the judges that are all fully up to speed on this change and doing great work with their agencies and pushing their clients, and sometimes their clients are pushing them into whole new areas of reinvention. So the advertising, marketing, communications, design businesses cannot just sit back anymore. Everybody is going through massive change. There's a tremendous retraining of people that have come out of so-called traditional agency businesses. And there's even becoming tradigital, which is traditional digital, because the business of digital has been around since '95, or perhaps a little bit earlier. And people in the digital businesses have to constantly rethink and reimagine and reinvent themselves. With that, I'll turn it over to anybody who wants to comment. Rick?
So I think the question that was asked was quite big, and we can spend the next 8 hours talking about it. But just to go back, because I don't think we spent enough time talking about the integrated Grand Prix, because we moved on to other things. One of the questions that I was asking the jury when we were judging, what's the definition of integration? And I think now you can have a totally integrated campaign that uses, let's say, print, radio, and TV, right? And let's say it comes from Spain. And we can have one campaign, or one idea that is completely digital, right? But that can be so much more influential than a very well integrated campaign, right? So that's one thing. The other thing that I would say is that I worked on a campaign for Halo a couple of years ago. It won a Grand Prix in Integrate, I believe. And when I look back, and to be a little bit self-critical about that piece, is that, the idea was big, and it was integrated, but they were not connected necessarily. And I believe that we're moving from the age of integration to age of interconnection, right? So now to come back to the Livestrong piece that we didn't really talk about, to me, not only the idea of Lance Armstrong deciding to come back to the tournament, I think the big game-changing idea there was that it connected, right? And you might be doing and experiencing this campaign in different ways from different touch points, but they're connected. And it's technology that made that interconnection happen. And it's ironic and convenient that I see the line "connections made easy" on the Cannes Lions posters. So I think it's great that the theme of this whole show this year is all about connections, and I think we are going from integration to interconnection.
I have a comment on that, because I think it's a good point. I've been struggling all week, and I've been vocal to a couple of people, they probably don't want to hear me talk about it anymore, about the categories titanium and integrated being together. And I've had a problem with it, but as I sit up here and I think about it, when you ask the question where the industry is going, I'm not sure I know that exactly, but maybe where this category is going, and probably for a good thing, because I look at a lot of integration, and it's some of them, it seems pretty boring because people are now taking off. So I think titanium may evolve into things that are game-changing ideas that are simple technology, or one of these things, maybe like the 12 force. But the integration, there's going to be such a higher level of the integrated campaign. It almost has to feel like a titanium-esque integrated campaign. So I think it's a good thing. And these guys are probably going to look at me like I'm crazy because I've been going the opposite. But I think about it that way now. It's actually pretty exciting to think that. So you ask about different countries and all those things. That's probably the thing that we're all learning, myself included, that when you're doing a can integrated, it has to feel titanium-esque. And I think Livestrong is a perfect example of that you have to have these two things because you want to be able to recognize something that's maybe smaller and very singular idea in one place, whether it's technology, or something else. And then you want to also be able to understand that when it's titanium integration, it's a little more special than maybe even other shows when they have integrated category.
I would add one thing. I think when you look back over the past maybe 10 years, and particularly from the time that technology started to impact the business, so a lot of ideas were just about the technology. And I think that the big lesson moving forward, if anybody wants to pay attention, if you look at this list, every one of these campaigns tells a story. And I think that I've heard this maybe every day that we met. Somebody would say, wow, that's about the story, or that's the story. They talked about the story. And I think that when you look at every idea here, every one of them passes the simple story test. It's like if you were the storyteller in the village 1,000 years ago, sitting in the circle, you could tell any one of these ideas, and it would be understandable in any country, any language, any place, any village, whatever. And I think that going forward, technology is going to change. 3 years from now, we're going to be sitting here, and whoever's on this jury is going to be looking at whatever the next great technological advancement is, and 20 years from now, even more. But the one thing that will keep bringing winners to the table is if in that technology, if they use the technology to tell stories and to make those stories interesting, emotional, attractable, and all the other things that Bob talked about. And I think that is the thing that everybody has to keep in mind. For me, that's the single biggest lesson people should take out of it. Whatever it is, whatever they're working, whatever they're doing, you tell the story, and you do it really well, and use all the tools, you have a chance to win.
I think that David's made a really extraordinary point that we all believe in at the jury level. And we're missing the voice of Mark, who really is an amazing storyteller. So we just want to say that whether the story is linear or nonlinear, storytelling has never gone away from advertising, communication, design, etc. And it's become even more important. It's a little harder to do, so you need new innovative ways to do it. And we'll continue to come back to that big idea. I do want to reference one other thing that I think is important, is that the brands out there are most all experiencing commoditization, and that the way around it is innovation. So this category really taps into, be it integrated or titanium, and there is a blurring of the two, because we think that the integrated campaign could be a titanium, and the titanium winner is integrated. So there is a blur that's happening across almost all the categories of can these days. And but it's a fight against commoditization, because that is a really difficult problem to solve in today's world, with consumers acting so differently. And whether it's B2B or B2C or B2G, as Kai mentioned with an entry, they're all important to learn that, to overcome commoditization. Yes?
Just two questions. There are two Australian entries that have won